again, everyone. We appreciate you taking the time this evening for the 2017 Summer Games HOD webinar for Special Olympics Maryland. My name is Steve Bennett, Senior Director of Competition and Coach Development for Special Olympics Maryland. We'll also have on the line Mike Sarnowski, VP of Programs, Jane Dunn, who is our lead in several of our statewide events for Summer Games. She does a lot of the housing, as hopefully everyone on the phone knows, as well as athletic staging. We have Nate Garland with Development Department and George Herganon with our Finance Department. So we'll go ahead and get started. Again, we'll just go over a few of the talking points tonight. We'll, again, welcome everyone. We'll look at a few of the maps that we have for the Summer Games, go over some updates with registration, the schedule, some of the other activities, and upcoming webinars and meetings. Basically, that's just one meeting, which will be next Thursday on site at Towson University, and we'll have some questions and answers as we move forward. As a reminder, you will see on your control panel there's a green hand looking icon. If you have a question, you can click on that, and or you can write a question in the text box, and Mike Sarnowski will be our moderator this evening to let us know the questions as they come. And as we go through, we may address some of those questions, and we'll see what we have at the end, any remaining questions. So again, we'll just start off with a couple maps. For those of you who are new, this is just for your purposes. We have a couple pinpoints here for Cockeysville Middle School, where the off-site softball campus is. We have Loyola Blakefield, where swimming off-site is. And here is Towson, and over here, for a point of reference, is the United Stadium. Again, we have the two off-site venues, and most everything else will be on campus of Towson University. Another sky map to take a look at just to get your bearings. A few points here. This is the Towson Run Apartments, also where Douglas is, for those of you housed in those areas. Over here are the towers, where you'll be housed in towers C and D, depending on where Jane has placed you for the Summer Games. This is the University Union by the Union Garage. This is where we will have the head of delegation meeting next Thursday evening, and also where the check-in will be on the second floor in the University Union for delegation check-in, and that's where you will receive your shirts for your delegation members for the opening ceremony. Continuing with the theme of maps, this is a Towson University campus map. A few things to point out here. Again, we talked about the housing units, Glen Towers C and D. We have the Douglas and Towson Run Apartments over in this area. One of the big changes this year, as a reminder, is in lots 13 and 14, which is by the stadium. That's where we're asking most everyone to park, volunteers, families, and spectators. There will be a shuttle that we'll talk about later that will service that area. A couple of the new also changes that we'll go into a little bit more detail later. In lot 21, that is the Towson Center parking lot. That will be blocked off most of the day on Friday and Saturday. There will be some parking available there, but for the most part, it'll be blocked off. That's where the Olympic Park will be on Saturday. Inside the Towson Center is also where we will have healthy athletes. Most portions of healthy athletes. There is one portion that will be on the track in the United Stadium. This is also where we'll have our young athletes open house and demonstration on Saturday. And again, on Saturday in lot 21 will be the block party, the dance, and the dinner. Again, we'll talk about that later. On Friday night, the block party will be in lot 20. That's where we've had it in the past, right behind the CQ Arena where the opening ceremony takes place. And that's where we'll have some activities leading up to the opening ceremony. We'll have some bus service there for the delegation members. And again, up here is the University Union, where the check-in for delegations on Thursday is, as well as the meeting for the head of delegations on Thursday evening. Again, in yellow, just so you, I'm sure you are aware, that shows you all of the competition and activity, other activities. Again, a basic layout of Loyola Blakefield where swimming will be. Same place as it was last year. A couple points of emphasis here is we're asking everyone to please spread the message not to park on any campus side streets or roads. Shuttles will be running from Towson to Loyola starting at 6:45 on Saturday. We'll have George talk about that in detail in a minute. Do not bring any chairs. Same as last year, if you remember, they're very protective, and rightfully so, of their floor, where we'll be having some activities there, and we don't want to damage their floor. We will provide chairs for delegations at the venue. Delegations have been allotted a certain number of passes to get on campus for parking based upon the numbers that are participating in swimming this year. We will distribute those passes to the heads of delegation on Thursday, and we will have some open parking starting at around 8:30 a.m. Once we have our delegation members with the passes there, we have our lead volunteers, officials, etc., and I think we're going to be fine, and we'll get into detail about that a little bit later as well. This is the off-site softball venue, Cockeysville Middle School. Again, this is where most teams will be playing their competition, both traditional and unified. We will have a certain number of teams that will take place in their competition at the Towson Softball Stadium. We're working on those schedules currently. And same as in the past, we will have the individual skills competition conducted on Towson University campus at the practice field, which is right beside the softball stadium. Get into some of the registration processes and information, and at this time I will turn it over to Mike Sarnowski to take over the next few slides regarding registration.
Thank you, Steve. Much of this has already passed, but just so that everybody knows where we're at and what we've gone through, the training registration was all due back on April 20th, and missing forms on May 4th. And then the competition registration was due this Monday a week ago. This passed, and also that same Monday, the 22nd, chaperones and heads of delegations need to be designated there. Speaking of that, if there are folks on the call from Carroll County, Prince George's County, and Frederick County, if you could please stay on the line after the session for just a minute or two. I just need to confirm because we don't currently have HODs listed for you in GMS for summer games. We need to correct that. Score updates were due yesterday, and we're finishing up updating all of those, and we're also going through and deleting all the athletes. Actually, I just did that earlier today, all the athletes and unified partners for whom there were no events. Hopefully, as all of you know, the on-site registration will be on Thursday, June 8th from 2 to 6. Same location we've been before, the second level of the University Union in that large lobby area over by the Susquehanna Dining Hall. That second bullet there, it's always a question, but the shirts should be available for opening ceremony by the time registration opens. Can't always guarantee that. So we'll keep you posted. Obviously, if they are not available at that time, we'll work something out. As a reminder, those shirts are a donation from Maryland Screen Printers, and it's a great opportunity to show their appreciation for us and for us to reciprocate by thanking them as well. Okay, Steve, the next slide, please. Okay. So just as a reminder, the registration fee for overnight delegation members is $65 a person. Everybody should have built that in the budget. That only covers a partial of the incremental on-site costs for any delegation member on site. The cost, that $128 is from last year. Because of the donation from Famous Dave's on Saturday, that'll adjust a little bit down, but that's roughly what it costs. For day of delegation members, there is no fee for folks that are within the 3-to-1 ratio. I'm not going to go into the 3-to-1 ratio. You should all be aware of it. We've gone over it enough times. If anybody has a question on that, please hold it till the end, and I can explain that to you. But as a reminder, we'll calculate out the 3-to-1 ratio based on who you have in housing and who you have in staying day of. We'll calculate them out separately and charge accordingly. If it does turn out, due to scratches and such, that you have any supervisory personnel above the 3-to-1 ratio who are staying on site, there'll be a charge of the full incremental on-site cost, estimated at $128. It'll actually probably be a little bit less than that, again, because of the donation for Saturday night's dinner. And then for day ofs, people who are just coming in on Saturday and Sunday or Friday even, the estimated cost is $16 for any supervisory personnel above the 3-to-1 ratio. Next one, Steve. So with that in mind, we'll calculate all those charges out based on who your scratches are as of noon on Monday, this coming Monday, June 5th. So you have until then to scratch anybody in your delegation who you do not have, who will not be coming, and you won't get any charge for those people who you scratch. Thank you to Montgomery County, who went through and did a massive number of scratches for us just before we locked stuff up, and then some more actually afterwards. We've already got most of theirs in. But if anybody else has them in there, after that noon on June 5th, your charges are going to be calculated based on who you have in GMS and housing. At that point, even if you scratch a bunch afterwards, your county's fees won't be adjusted down. So please do get that in and send it to your regional sports director or the contact. For those of you in Eastern and Southern Maryland and Central, still send to Danielle Weddle at the moment. While we do have and are thrilled to have a new regional sports director on board, we haven't determined their territories yet. And the second one, Kristen Mullins, will be starting on June 8th. So we'll, but we don't have the territories assigned just yet. So it can just continue to send stuff to Danielle, and we'll get it. If you have any question, you can send it also to Steve and me. So we just pretty much covered that there. So Steve, back to you, and I'm going to mute again.
Thank you, Mike. Again, we'll go over just some of the master schedule for the summer games. Again, we've talked about delegation registration, where you get your shirts and your delegation packets that Bill DePaul, Jane Dunn will be working with you, and also housing information there from 2 to 6 at the University Union in the lobby. And then that evening, we will have our heads of delegation meeting in a room right beside where the registration is, and that's in the Lock Raven room, also in the University Union. Again, just a reminder, this is for the heads of delegations only. There is space, there is limited space in the room, so don't bring your friends, families, spectators, etc. Just the heads of delegations, so that we can make room for everyone for that meeting. Again, just briefly going over the schedule. The only competition we really have on Friday is the cheerleading competition, which will begin approximately 10 a.m., go through about 3 o'clock. We do have a brief thing I'd like to mention. We have a YAP cheerleading program that will do a demonstration there from Montgomery County towards the end. So we're excited to have that demonstration. Big reminder, lunches. We are only providing lunch for the delegations who are officially participating, or for the individuals from the delegations who are officially participating in cheerleading. So that's the only individuals that will be served lunch on Friday. Family hospitality will be looked at there at cheerleading, and then we'll talk about where they'll be located throughout the event. Dinner will be at the Susquehanna Dining Hall in the University Union, same place as before in the years past, from 4 to 6. We also will have a dance demonstration from some Special Olympics athletes and their peers that will be in an adjacent room, the Potomac room. So if you have a chance, go ahead and stop by, check that out, and support those athletes. The block party will be on Friday in Lot 20. That is the CQ Arena, same as last year, from 5 to 7. We will have merchandise sales there through the evening. And The coaches' meetings on Friday. The locations have been communicated in the sports webinars to the head coaches, and those specific locations will be identified in the event guide that will be going out very shortly in the next few days. We will stage the athletes and delegation members for the opening ceremony in that lot 20, 6:30, and then the opening ceremony and the cauldron lighting, the law enforcement torch will be between 7:30 and 8:30. The main thing here, and George will touch on it in a little bit later, but please help us keep everyone in their seats during the opening ceremony at its conclusion until your delegation is dismissed by announcement from the stage. So we can do that in a organized fashion and make sure everybody who's boarding the buses at the specific time are the ones we would like on those buses at that time. Moving on to Saturday, breakfast from 6 to 8:15. We will have some buses going to the off-site campuses. At 6:45, George and Towson had worked this out the last day or two based on some feedback we've received from the swimming coaches as well as the heads of delegation. So the buses going to swimming will begin running at 6:45. The other ones will go into Coggiesville, and that will be at 7 o'clock. Then we have our competition for athletics, bocce, softball, and swimming from 8 to 5. Again, the times are approximate there for the end of the competition. This is where family hospitality has been changed a little bit this year. Their main location will be in Lot 21 for Towson University. They will not have family hospitalities at all the competition venues on campus. There will be one centralized location, again, in Lot 21, which is by the Towson Center. Healthy athletes will be in the Towson Center. And like I said, the other location has been determined, and that's going to be down at the track and field area on Saturday. Merchandise, again, will be moved from Lot 20 on Friday to Lot 21 on Saturday. And the big change, ladies and gentlemen, dinner will be in Lot 21 at the Towson Center on Saturday. Do not go to the Susquehanna Dining Hall because you will not be fed there. As Mike mentioned earlier, Nate and the development team has made a great partnership with Famous Days for the summer games. They're providing the dinner for everyone on Saturday, again in Lot 21 from 4 to 6. We will have a head of delegation meeting in United Stadium in room 301. Those of you who were at that meeting last year, it's the same place. It's on the same level as the control center in that hallway. As a reminder for your softball coaches and others, we do have the softball game in the evening with the home run derby. So make sure your softball coaches have selected and ready to provide the names of the individual from the team that they are nominating to take place in the home run derby, which there are prizes for the winners. Moving right along in Lot 21, again on Saturday evening, we will have the Olympic Park and dance right after dinner. We'll go into the dance in Olympic Park. That will be outside. The big question of the day is, what is the theme of the dance? It's the 70s era, and we'll get into detail on what that means in just a minute. As we've had in the past, the family reception will be in the CQ Arena Concourse from 7:30 to 8:30, and a reminder, that is only for family members. No athletes, partners, friends, that kind of thing. This is really just for families to provide information and talk to peers about family concepts and education materials. And then Sunday, again, breakfast at Susquehanna Dining Hall. The buses, the same kind of thing there. Competition, about the same, with a little earlier end time. And again, a reminder, family hospitality in Lot 21. We also will look to have some merchandise sales there as well. Some basic updates. The opening ceremony, again, and the block party. Friday dinner, just can't say this enough. Friday in the dining hall, Saturday in Lot 21. Nate, if you're available, if you want to give a brief discussion about Block Party in Olympic Park.
Yeah, thanks, Steve, and good evening, everybody. Yep, so the Block Party experience should be pretty similar to what you guys have experienced in the past. Those of you guys on the call who are new, as Steve has mentioned a couple times, we're up in Lot 20 at the ground level of the CQ Arena, which helps aid us getting all of our athletes and delegations up in the general area to be ready to kind of get the energy level up, but ready to really get into CQ for opening ceremonies. There will be food for purchase up there. We've got a couple food trucks. I believe the Kona Ice folks will be out there, so there'll be snow cones, there'll be beverages donated by Coca-Cola, so free beverages there. We'll have music, lots of lawn games and entertainment, and just a fun gathering space, as Steve mentioned, merchandise available outside at the Block Party venue, but then also there'll be a limited portion of that, probably specific Summer Games merchandise as we break down the Block Party, will be located just outside of the lobby and CQ area for those people who maybe went and sat down during opening and had buyer's remorse and wish they could have got that T-shirt. They'll have an opportunity before they get on the bus again that evening, or obviously opportunities throughout the weekend. A couple notes on opening ceremonies, and I'm not sure if you're covering this, Steve. We'll probably pass out the list at the HOD meeting. The procession, the opening ceremonies team has been working really hard on changing up the procession, so it's important to note that we'll need a little more cooperation as we make announcements on Friday night to start lining up. They won't be in the traditional alphabetical order. We'll call delegations as they've been designed by size. We're going to try to manage multiple entrances into the arena to try to ramp up the speed of the procession there. So more details to come from Jason and Rick and the opening ceremonies team, I believe, next week. But just an important note, while you're at the Block Party, that's where all that will start there. So we have a good time for you on Friday night at the Block Party. And then, Steve, do you want me to go ahead to Olympic Park, or do you want to hold on that?
You can go ahead.
Actually,
all right, then
Nate, before you go and do that, just one clarification for folks that following opening ceremony, or at the end of opening ceremony, we will not be going back outside for the torch lighting, as we have done for the past several years. That'll be handled through a video feed in the arena. I mean, the cauldron will still be lit, but we won't be moving everybody outside like we have. So again, it should keep the ceremony going, moving, high energy, and such.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Mike. Thanks for mentioning that. This year we have 21 legs of the torch run. The first leg actually started today in Montgomery County, and then next week on Monday, starting in Ocean City and various parts of the state, the torch will make 20 different stops throughout the state, and then it'll culminate, obviously, in opening ceremonies. We're hoping, our plan is we're working hard to capture video from all the legs, and we hope to at least bring you the torch run experience while you're comfortably seated inside the arena and still have the same energy of excitement of the torch officially being lit. So we're excited about this, and certainly excited to have you guys get back to the dorms at a reasonable time for the big weekend ahead of you. On Saturday, Steve made important notes about the change. Just to give you just 2 seconds of background, we really want to try to, in the future here, make more and more strides to engage the Maryland community to come out and support our efforts, and that's your families, your friends, the local Towson community, our sponsors and partners throughout the state. And one of the ways that we think we need to continue to evolve the games, besides continuing to make sure we put our athletes and the games on display, is create other opportunities to engage those fans of ours. And this year we're going to start the process of developing an Olympic Park. And so as Steve mentioned, in Lot 20 you'll see a really nice family hospitality venue. George will talk about the shuttle transportation system later. So no matter what venue you're at on campus, you can easily get on the shuttle, get up to Lot 21, have a really nice respite or family hospitality experience there. I know Debbie and Susan Holland and Jeff, they've been working hard on their plan there. That's going to be nice. You'll have a big merchandise setup. It's allowed us to kind of expand our merchandise opportunity there since we're not moving it around and spreading it out to all kinds of different venues there. So that's going to be great. We'll have a carnival and festival type games for our athletes. It will be the center for our VIP and a lot of our donor hospitality events that we're doing. We will have canopy coverage on Saturday evening for dinner. Our goal is to have sit-down dinner space for at minimum a third of the delegations at any one time. So we're pretty comfortable that we'll have seated dinner space in 3 separate tents and roughly about 320 seats. There'll be various numbers of high-top cocktail-type tables throughout the Olympic Park. And the food area, there will be food for purchase, obviously the donated food, and desserts, funnel fare, Kona Ice, other food trucks will be out. Of course, we've got music by DJs, Petey and Charlie, who will have the tunes for the dance. The Olympic Park will be open as family hospitality opens at 9 a.m., and our team will bring everything online starting that morning. The event guide will read a little bit differently, and we'll provide some updates next Thursday on that, but merchandise will be available throughout the day. Our volunteer check-in facilities have also been moved up into that area. We really are trying to create an atmosphere on that Lot 21 for all of the public, our athletes when they're not participating in games, our coaches, our volunteers, our families, our corporate partners, volunteers, anyone who wants to engage in the game is beyond just what's happening on the playing field and the role they play. Provide a really neat opportunity for us to create that experience there. So this is year one. We'll learn from it. We certainly will provide opportunities for you guys to give us feedback on what you thought went well, what you might like to see up there in the future. And I think that's it. The last note that's important is obviously with an outdoor Olympic Park and an outdoor plan to feed people, we continue to talk about what our rain plan would be. We do have plans to go back into the Towson Arena, the Towson Center, the Towson Center, and we're shoring up what those details would look like and specifically when we would make that call based on what we would need to do to be able to make sure we still feed everybody based on the time frames we need to feed everybody and host, the dinner dance inside the Towson Center. So we'll share more of those details next week should weather be an issue that we need to have a conversation about, and we'll then be able to get you in fine detail what our plan is and how we'll execute that.
Great. Thank you, Nate.
Steve, back to you.
Thank you, sir. One of the other things that's important that we need to know for the opening ceremony is by June 2nd, so that's right around the corner, we need to have information from the heads of delegation on the total delegation of members that you plan to have walk in and seated during the opening ceremony, and also the number of individuals who use wheelchairs or have mobility challenges so that we can make sure that we have appropriate seating for them. And please send that information to your regional sports director contact at this time. Again, we would like to have that no later than June 2nd. So that's a takeaway from this evening and a to-do for you. One of the other things that we should have mentioned earlier, and I apologize, is these slide decks will be sent out to everyone. So we appreciate you taking notes during the session, but also know that all the information will be sent out to you in these slide decks. Summer Games updates. George, I will now turn it over to you with some transportation to knows, for you will.
Thank you, Steve. Let me start off with two things that are new this year. I think they've been mentioned, but the two items that are new this year is that we are putting extra buses on the loop to Loyola because of the parking issues over there. So we're starting them early, and in the first couple hours of the loop, we will have 4 buses out there to get people over to Loyola. A reminder that...
George, just for perspective for folks, that 4 buses, that's double the number of buses we had last time. So.
Yes, it is. We started off with 2 last year, and we pressed a third into service real quick when it got a little crowded. So yes, we've doubled the buses and expanded the time. A reminder that we do need to leave from what is called the Union Garage Loop, which is at the opposite end of the Union Garage. It's at the end of the Union Garage that is opposite from the Union building. So you have to walk down towards Osler Drive. We hope that eventually we'll get back to the parking lot behind the Union, which is a lot more convenient. But right now that's being used for construction. And the other thing that's new is that you will see that we're adding a stadium loop, or a bus that will go around Auburn Drive. So you're going to need to look, before you get on the bus, make sure you look for the sign that says what bus it is, because the stadium loop will just be going around Auburn Drive for those folks over there. So couple quick points that Steve has here on the slide. You can walk from Douglas to Towson Run if you want to. It's just straight down the pavement and the footbridge over Osler Drive. We will have buses running at 6 a.m., again, to bring you over to the Union Garage Loop to get you to breakfast. And the University Union Garage, people can park there. They can enter from Osler Drive. They can enter from the side street, which is Cross Campus Drive. Towson Run and Douglas are over in West Village. You walk away from Osler Drive to get to that bus stop. So it's where it's always been if you've been there before, but it's towards the parking garage and away from Osler Drive. The University Union Loop we've mentioned, and we recognize that buses might be crowded. You can stand in the buses that are on campus. You cannot stand, no standing allowed, in the shuttles that go to Loyola and to Cockeysville. There's a safety issue there because they get up to a higher speed. But if the bus is crowded, just be patient. There will be another bus along in a second. And the new route I already mentioned circles Auburn Drive. So Steve, if you would go to the next slide. So that's, let's see, I think the things to mention on Friday, I'm not going to read all of this, but on Friday we do have one bus running from the dormitories over to Lot 21 if you would like to see the cheerleading competition. Then starting at about 3 o'clock, we have the buses running to take everybody over to Lot 20. We're going to, on Friday evening, there's a couple of changes here. We're going to, for a while, we will be able to drop people off up in Lot 20. So you will, if you're early, you will not have to walk up the hill to Lot 20 from Auburn Drive. We've got a little bit of a conflict here that we're going to have to work out. This says that we can do it until 7 p.m., but I noticed that before we just said we were going to start staging before that. So the reason that we can only do it until 7 p.m. or whatever time we determine is that that space is going to be used for staging for the parade to enter the opening ceremony. And then the other change is that you will not have to walk down the hill to Auburn Drive. We're going to load in Lot 20. So what we're basically going to do is you walk out the entrance into Lot 20, we're going to line the buses up to the left along the softball field. That we should have enough room. We think we have enough room to load 3 buses at a time. So as you come out, you'll be directed to the first available bus. This is, again, a time where you can stand. We'll send those buses out and then bring 3 more buses up to load. So you're going to be called out by area to load the buses. Make sure you check. There'll be a schedule that we'll give out, and there's a copy of it in these slides. But the first run back will only be to the towers. We have 2 towers this year, so there's a lot of people in the towers. Last year we only had 1. So the first run will only be to the towers. The second run will be to be first to Towson Run in Douglas and then to the towers. And it usually only takes about 2 to 2.5 or 3 runs to get everybody back. So it happens kind of quickly. Okay, Steve, next slide.
George, just as a note with that also, since we'll be inside, we'll still have music playing and such with that, so it should be at least moderately entertaining while you're waiting to be called for your buses.
And I think everybody knows we always do this. We recognize it's late. Everybody needs to get up early next morning. That's why we do this as quickly as possible. We have every bus that Towson has available for this loop on Friday night. So we do get everybody back kind of quickly. So Saturday morning, we've talked about if you're in Towson Run or Douglas, there'll be a shuttle, or you can walk. It's your choice. But there'll be a shuttle to bring you over to breakfast. Softball starts at 7 and runs to the end of competition. Again, the buses will be labeled, so make sure people don't get on those Cockeysville bus if they want to go to Loyola. We're going to start the shuttle for Loyola a little bit earlier, 6:45, and again, we'll run to the end of competition. And then, in addition, starting at 7:30, we have the shuttle that goes all the way around the campus. So all day that'll be running towers to Towson Run Douglas, to lot 13, 14, and then down to the bocce field and athletics, up to lot 20 and around 21, and then back again. In addition, this is the new thing we mentioned before, there will be a shuttle just making that loop on Auburn Drive. Just a reminder to people, I think this has been mentioned, but you could spread the word. Parking, when you're parking in, for example, lot 20 on Saturday, that's fine, but you must park legally, and legally means in a designated space. There is no parking on the road up from Auburn Drive up to lot 20, and there is no parking if you can't find a designated lined space. The reason for that is primarily safety. We have to be able to get safety vehicles up there if we need them, but also the buses. The buses need room to get up there and turn around. So legal parking, and we will, if we have to, we will tow people because, again, this is a safety factor. All right, and then let's see, Sunday, pretty much the same. Starting at 6, shuttle over to breakfast, and then the shuttles both running to Loyola and to Cockeysville. We start shutting down as competition ends. So we will check the competition sites and make sure everyone's gone, everyone's left, and then we start shutting down the buses. We usually go to at least 3 o'clock if everything's on schedule. We will keep buses running if the schedule is delayed. All right, Steve, next slide. As I said, if we're delayed for any reason, we'll keep the shuttles running. And all the buses now have wheelchair lifts, but there is still the paratransit service if you would like that. Really, the only benefit of a paratransit is that it just goes from point A to point B. You don't have to ride the whole loop to get to where you're going. but that is still available. You can call them at the number there and just give them about 20 minutes to get to you. And one more slide, Steve. Okay. I think we've covered all this. MC will call you out by area. First run is Towers, and then Douglas, Towson run, and then Towers on the subsequent runs. We'll remind you of this in the meeting on June 8th. Steve, there were a couple changes to this that I guess we didn't get. Again, the buses will not, at the end of the opening ceremony, the buses will not be on Auburn Drive as they have in the past. They will be up in Lot 20. And then next slide, Steve. And this is the schedule, which we will make available to you. And it's basically, it's getting a little crowded because we're growing and putting in as many buses as we can. But you can see it's color-coded. So on Saturday, for example, the yellow indicates the softball Cockeysville shuttle, and that note underneath then is also highlighted in yellow. So you can see which bus you need and which times it runs. And again, at the bottom, the paratransit note, should you need that. I think I've covered it all, Steve, unless you can think of anything that I might have missed. Or...
We did have a question come in. Just to confirm, we know we can park in the Union Garage. We still park in the garage between Towson Run and Douglas, the garage over on that side?
I believe that, yes, I believe by Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I don't think there's going to be any parking restrictions. In fact, they mentioned that they might be putting bags over the meter machine where you go to buy the ticket if you do need a ticket. So, yeah, I think pretty much all garages will be open. I will double check that and let you know if that's not correct. But at this point, I believe all garages will be open for the weekend.
Great, thank you.
Again, as George was talking about, the campus loop, for those that are parking in 13 and 14, which is the main parking area, the loop will come down and will stop and service the bocce venue, the track and field venue, and the Towson Center as well, and then we'll loop back down and continue this loop. Is that correct, George, if you're able to see that?
That is primarily for, it's for anybody, but it's focused on volunteers and family members. Some people have difficulty with the walk from 1314 around to the venues. You can walk either end of the stadium. You can walk down Auburn Drive towards Bocce, or you can walk the open end of the stadium and walk along the pathway there over to Lot 21. But if there is a problem, if, mobility issues or age issues, that's what this bus is running for. It's going to make that loop on Auburn Drive the whole day.
Now, I do want to stress what George was talking about, safety concerns. This is where we had a lot of people parking. Once one person starts parking illegally, a lot of people say, well, if they can do it, I can do it too. And this did become pretty packed, even though we had no parking signs there. And it did create a major safety concern. So this is, as George said, no parking up the hill going into Lot 20. And again, if you're not in a lined designated parking space, the possibility exists that you will be towed, and nobody wants that.
We did get one additional question related to parking and such. For many of the folks here on the HODs, they're going to be there on Thursday night. Are there any parking restrictions on Thursday night, or what's the process for that?
I just spoke with Towson today. They're working on that. It will either be no restrictions, or they will provide a parking code for the HODs on Thursday evening. And if necessary, depending on where you're housed, they may also provide parking passes that can be displayed in your vehicle on the dash or whatever. So we're still waiting to confirm that. When that information comes available, we'll share it with you. But we should have everything ready for you when you check in on Thursday.
Okay, great. And if we have the parking code, we'll email that out to folks.
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, again, Nate covered a lot of the information. We are trying to put the final touches on the possibility of a movie night there on Saturday during the dance for those who want to partake in the movie instead of dancing. If so, that will be in the Towson Center. Again, the dance will be outside. Again, we talked about the theme of the dance, the 70s era. What does that mean? Bring your disco and your flower power hippie outfit. And I know we'll have a lot of good costumes and a good time at the dance during that time. The other thing, we highlighted it a little bit earlier, but again, a reminder, the Young Athletes Program, that's what the YAP stands for, open house. That's for athletes between the ages of 2 and 7 who are developing motor skills and staying with Special Olympics once they get to that age, and then they can continue on in training and move on to competition as they get older. Again, that's at the Towson Center from 10 to 1 on Saturday, June 10th. This is kind of what we were talking about, just to give you an idea of the layout in Lot 20 on Friday. As you can see, we've got some, or hopefully you can see, depending on how big your screen is, you know, a lot of games, a lot of activities, some interesting things. We have the food vendors, etc. Where you see this barricade, this is where the buses will come up, drop off, make their loop back down. Again, this is also where the buses will be staged upon departure of the opening ceremony. And this is for Saturday, moving up to Lot 21 at the Towson Center. As you can see back in this area, that's where a food services area will be for the food deliveries for the competition venues. And then throughout the area, we have our family hospitality, VIP hospitality, general seating, merchandise, carnival, fun and games, the DJ, the food vendors. We have some lawn games over here. And this is what we talked about earlier. That's where the volunteer check-in for Towson University will be, is in the grass area, again, by Lot 21. The buses will be able to come up here and make their loop and head back out. A few other quick updates. Again, we talked about the healthy athletes. It'll be from approximately 11 to 5 in the Towson Center. There will be the different disciplines, special smiles, fit feet, fun fitness, opening eyes, healthy hearing, health promotion, and strong minds, which is a pilot program this year. The other location, as we indicated, will be at the athletics venue at the track and field on Saturday, June 10th, from approximately 10:30 to 3:30. That will be at the opposite end of where the tents are for staging and awards, in the end zone area. Family services, we hit on that in Lot 21 at Towson University, and we will have some further information going out to the families in the next couple of days with mailing to give them information about the summer games. And again, merchandise will be in Lot 20 on Friday, Lot 21 on Saturday. We're looking at the off-site venues as well. So we're putting the final touches on that the next day or two. Meals, we pretty much hit it, but again, I can't stress it enough. On Saturday, the dinner is not in the dining hall. It will be in Lot 21 with Famous Dave's. And again, that will be a ticketed dinner. We'll have tickets available to the HODs in the packets at registration. And if not at registration, by the time we have the meeting on Thursday evening next week. The food trucks and food vendors, etc., these prices are approximate, not for a fact, but it gives you an idea of what to expect for those that are coming to look to purchase. Breakfast around $8 to $9, lunch around $8 to $9, dinner $11, $12, somewhere in that ballpark.
And Steve, just as a follow-up from a question on meals we had earlier, That $11, I believe, is also the charge that if a family member wants to eat dinner in the dining hall, they can pay that at the register. The question was specifically related to folks who may want to come see the dance demonstration going on Friday night.
Yep, thank you for that clarification. Mike?
Yep, thank you.
Control Center, same as in the past in United Stadium in the Megan Room. As a reminder, HODs only, please. If coaches have issues or questions, please have them go through you as a conduit, and then you can address us as the HOD with any questions or emergencies you may have. We talked about the registration. Jane, we have a few things here on housing. If you're available, would you like to talk about housing?
Yeah, so just to let everybody know, I appreciate everybody, every single delegation got their housing to me on time. Very good. And also, in checking to make sure that the people housed were also registered, it was a really pretty smooth process. I know we've had some changes in the last few days. If you have any housing changes that you've become aware of, if you can get them to me by tomorrow at the latest, because I can send an updated list to Towson early Friday morning. So if you do have some edits to your housing, if you can let me know. As you know, the majority of you will meet with me between 2 and 6 for picking up your housing and your registration materials. I know a couple of the delegations pick up their stuff on Friday. So if you are not going to be there on Thursday afternoon, if you can just let me know so I won't be looking for you at 6 o'clock when I'm trying to pack up. Just the standard dropping the keys off, everything, I'll kind of tell everybody about it at the HOD meeting next Thursday. But, as everybody has come to be more familiar with the process, all keys are left in the building you're staying in. I think that's about it.
Great. One other additional point I'd like to make, and I don't think we'll have any issues, hopefully not, but any delegation found housing anybody who's not on the official housing list, sneaking somebody in basically, if found out and reported, they will not be eligible for housing at next year's summer games. So again, that's a very serious safety risk. I know everyone takes it seriously, so please be in compliance with that. Only individuals on the official housing list should be in any rooms.
Steve, before we go forward, we do have a question, hand raised by Carol Piacese. Carol, your phone line should be open now. You can go ahead and ask. Carol? Okay, perhaps she dropped off. So go ahead, and if Carol has a question still, you can send it in via the question screen. Back to you, Steve.
Okay, just a reminder, this is a qualifying year for the 2018 Team Maryland, traveling to the 2018 USA Games. So we have qualifying athletes and partners in the following events: track, athletics, bocce, softball, the traditional team, swimming, as well as the coaches' applications that were due today. We had a flurry of them coming in today and yesterday, so we appreciate everyone getting that message out. The selection of the athletes and partners that will be making up Team Maryland will take place a couple of weeks after summer games. We've got to make sure we have all the official results and verified results, and yourselves or the area or county director has had a chance to review the information and make sure that everything is ready to go for the random draw selection and that process. The event guide, again, we've mentioned will be sent out to everyone here hopefully in the next day or two, by the end of the week for sure. And then, again, just reminders on medical. Obviously, watch for any dehydration or signs of exposure to the sun, wind if we have major wind, which we won't this year. But a reminder to bring your own sunscreen, not be provided by Special Olympics, and bug repellent if there is some rain leading up to the event. Some of the venues may have a little bit of standing water where there may be some bugs, so we want to make sure everybody has what's needed. Again, the big thing is if it's a hot day, make sure everyone stays hydrated, and if just continue to push the fluids with all, not just the athletes, but partners, coaches. I have to remind staff and volunteers as well as we get into the game mode and just go, and we forget to be hydrated ourselves. So if we have any weather issues, we will review the upcoming weather at the HOD meeting. But as a reminder, only the Towson University staff, Special Olympics Maryland staff, and management team will decide to activate any plans if inclement weather comes available or comes our way. Please, please let everyone know, including family members, coaches, that if we have to make decisions where, like we had last year, where the pop-up tents needed to come down for safety reasons, please let everyone know to comply. We had a couple issues last year that were not necessarily the most fun to deal with, but with your help, I think we can make that a little smoother process so that everyone can be safe if those situations do arise. Again, we will make those decisions collectively with Towson University and our management team, and you will be notified if those situations arise. At this time, I would like to open it up for any other additional comments. Before we get to questions, Mike, do you have any additional comments? Okay, George, Jane, or Nate?
Sorry, I was on mute. I just spoke eloquently and you missed it. No, just as a reminder, the HOD meeting on Thursday the 8th is exceedingly important. There will be several different updates that are there. It really is important that you do have your head of delegation there, and if that person is not available, have someone else in their place. And as a reminder for that also, it would only be the HOD, or if there is a single designee that they would have them. And shouldn't have to say this, but some things came up on the coaching calls as well. Us sharing this information with you, the understanding is that part of your role as head of delegation is to then share it with your entire delegation, both the information we've covered in the webinar as well as what's covered in the meetings themselves. If you don't already have a system in place to share and disseminate that information on site, I'd work something out now. That is part of your obligation as an HOD, is to make sure that any of this information does get out to the people in your delegation who need it. And then just a reminder, if anybody's on the call from Carroll, Prince George's, or Frederick counties, to please stay on the line for a minute or two after we end. Thank you.
Okay, with that being said, again, we just look forward to seeing everyone. We thank you for all of your efforts throughout the year, especially leading up to summer games at this time in the year. We know there's a lot of hard work that you guys have put in, along with the coaches, athletes, partners, and family members. And together we can make this a great event. So again, we appreciate all of your efforts. And we thank you from an extension from the Special Olympics Maryland staff, from our games management team, and from the Towson University staff that have been working for about a year to again, have another successful summer games. So at this time, those few counties, please stay on the line. And again, we look forward to seeing everybody next week.
Yeah, I don't see any other questions from anyone. Last call? Great. Thank you again, and we'll stop the recording.